I'm Louis Hoffman, the Executive Director of the Rocky Mountain Humanistic Counseling and Psychological Association. We have just issued the call for proposals for our seventh annual RMHCPA conference, which will be held in October in Denver, Colorado. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about our conference today and particularly the theme. Before I get to the theme, I do want to mention that we are inviting people to submit a wide range of proposals, and we will consider proposals that do not tie in the theme. However, we will give preferential review to proposals that do center around the theme, or at the very least, make an effort to try and tie in some of the scholarship of Frantz Fanon. So our theme is A New Humanism, Frantz Fanon and Beyond. Now, Fanon is better known for his political writings and a lot of the work that he did on decolonization. However, Fanon was a psychiatrist, and as many scholars have observed, he always remained a psychiatrist, and even his political writings were deeply rooted in his psychological understanding. Fanon was born in 1925 and sadly died in 1961 at the age of 36. He had a short life, but despite this, he made a number of critically important contributions that can be seen in his scholarly writing, but also in the witness that he provided, in the way that he went about a lot of his psychological practice. He was involved in institutional psychotherapy, social psychotherapy. He was trained in that uh, in France before he went to Algeria, when Algeria was still a colony of France. And he brought institutional or social psychotherapy to Algeria and made some important modifications. And when you dive into some of the work that Fanon did around psychiatry and institutional psychotherapy in Algeria and then later in Tunisia, you can see quickly that this was incredibly innovative work that was way ahead of its time. Frantz Fanon was talking about multicultural and social justice issues, demonstrating cultural humility many, many years before this was something talked about in mainstream psychology. So that Fanon was so much ahead of his time begs the question of why has his contributions to psychology not been better understood and integrated into the psychological literature? Well, this remains an important question, and it's one of the things that we hope to both explore and correct with this conference. Fanon wrote three books during his life, and there's another book that was published that was a collection of his papers. The best known of his books are probably one, Black Skin, White Masks, which was his first book. He had hoped to do this as a dissertation. His chair wouldn't allow that, so he took another direction with his dissertation, but he came back and published this later. The other book that's probably the second best known, or maybe first, is The Wretched of the Earth. Both of these show incredible psychological sophistication to them, and also they show Fanon's engagement with phenomenology and existential psychology. Fanon was influenced by a number of phenomenologists and existentialists, including Merleau-Ponty, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Simone de Beauvoir. And in particular, he developed a friendship with Jean-Paul Sartre over time. But while he was influenced by all of these individuals, he also challenged them. And I think an argument can be made, particularly with Sartre, and I think also with de Beauvoir, that he left a deep impression upon them that influenced some of the development of their theory. Now, this is very difficult to prove, of course, but we do see some of the things that Fanon talked about being very influential in a lot of ways, and I think we can see some of these changes. And he has two other books then that have been out for a while, Towards an African Revolution and A Dying Colonialism. More recently, came out a very important collection, and it's a nice thick collection, Frantz Fanon, Alienation and Freedom. And you can also you can buy this as one thick volume, but you can also buy the different sections of it. There's a section on on the plays that he wrote, which were incomplete, but still fascinating in their own regard. There's a section on his political writings, and then particularly important in thinking about this conference is there's an important collections of his psychiatric and psychological writings that's included in this book. So Fanon did a lot of work in advancing some of the psychotherapy practices, challenging some of the practices of the time that were um, culturally insensitive and really downright racist. But even when we look at his political writings, we can see how he applies a lot of the psychological understandings. So in Black Skin, White Masks, this is one of the first psychological or first phenomenological accounts. I'm sorry, this is the first phenomenological account of anti-Black racism. In The Wretched of Earth, we can see throughout a lot of his engagement with psychological ideas, but in the particular, the last chapter focuses a lot on talking about some of um, his clinical work that he did during his time in Algeria in particular. And these are fascinating accounts. So for the conference, we hope that you will take some time to consider the work of Frantz Fanon. If you don't have a presentation in mind that is directly on Fanon, I hope that you'll take some time to look in and see, are some of Fanon's ideas relevant? Are there ways that you can dialogue with, engage, and integrate them into your proposals as well? But we do really hope that there are a number of strong proposals that really are focusing on Frantz Fanon's work and advancing this important work that he has done. Because a lot of people are not very familiar with Frantz Fanon, one thing that we're hoping to do is over the next several months to post a number of very short little videos on some of Frantz Fanon's contributions. And we hope that these will be by a few different people taking different takes on Frantz Fanon. These will be one opportunity for you to be able to engage and maybe find where Frantz Fanon might be relevant to a proposal that you're developing, or where you might want to dig in a little bit more into the work of Frantz Fanon. So we hope that you will consider submitting a proposal to our conference. We're looking for symposium, paper presentations, and poster presentations. We will once again have a student poster award, both graduate and undergraduate, pending a sufficient number of submissions. And if you don't feel like you're able to spend the time to integrate, to thoughtfully integrate Fanon's scholarship into your proposal, of course, we will still consider other proposals as well. So we hope that we'll see many of you in our inboxes with some submissions, and we hope that we'll see many of you in October in Denver, Colorado.